random receipts in there.
Bye, Dad.
Ready?
Go.
Hi, I'm Allie with the San Diego chapter, and I'd like to thank you for supporting the Surfrider Foundation. I'm a Surfrider supporter because I love where I live. Thank you. Is that good?
Hey everyone, welcome to our first chapter meeting of 2021. My name is Mitch Silverstein, and I have the distinct honor to serve as your San Diego County chapter manager. If you're new to Surfrider or need a refresher, our mission is to protect and enjoy our ocean, waves, and beaches for all people through a powerful activist network. Now, whether you're a volunteer, a donor, a member, a supporter, our Instagram follower, or whatever, many of you here tonight are already part of that powerful activist network here in San Diego. And for any first-timers tuning in tonight, our doors are wide open. Now, before we dive in, I do want to take a moment to acknowledge that our chapter does operate on the unceded lands of the Kumeyaay people, who are the original inhabitants and protectors of this land and coastline and are still here today. It's vitally important, now more than ever, that we ally ourselves with the causes of justice, equity, and inclusivity in everything we do. And believe me, I know we've got a lot of work to do before we can say our chapter is truly as diverse as San Diego is, but we are committed. All right, so I know no one tuned in tonight to hear about COVID, but I will say this. Even though we're still unable to host our big beach cleanups and other in-person events, it's actually easier than ever to engage, to get involved, and be an activist for our coastline. You don't even have to leave your house. Currently in the San Diego County chapter, we've got 7 mission-based programs which meet monthly on Zoom. And in those programs, they comprise 20 active campaigns that address beach access, clean water, the preservation of our coast, the defense of our ocean, and of course, reducing plastic pollution in San Diego County. Now, if you're new to Surfrider and that all sounds overwhelming, I will be leading a volunteer orientation on Thursday, March 4th at 6:30 p.m. And you can register on surfridersd.org. You can also find our events calendar on surfridersd.org, and feel free to hop in to any of our committee meetings. No RSVP required. Just don't Zoom bomb us. Now, before we dive into our presentations tonight about clean water issues in San Diego, I do have 2 specific plugs that I'd like to do. So first plug is that Surfrider beach cleanups are back, sort of. For the time being, we are going to be organizing elite strike teams of up to 25 masked, socially distant volunteers at beaches all over the county. It's not something we can publicly promote because our beach cleanups are really popular and hundreds of people show up, and that would be bad right now. But if you are interested in that, hit me up at beachcleanups@surfridersd.org and just let me know what part of San Diego you live, and I'll put you on a list, and I will be recruiting elite strike teams for beach cleanups all over the county until things get back to normal. Another plug I want to do is from our Ocean Friendly Restaurants program. Obviously, a very hard year for sustainability in the restaurant industry because of COVID, and they worked really hard and created a new program called Ocean Friendly to Go, which is aimed at eliminating the mountains of single-use plastic takeout waste that we're currently experiencing by working with individual restaurants to create a system that allows for us, their loyal and ocean-loving customers, to bring our own containers and transfer our orders into them, thus magically eliminating wasteful single-use plastics from our orders. Now, as of now, Sonny's Taqueria in OB is currently our only Ocean Friendly to Go member, but we are a grassroots organization, and that means that with a few dedicated volunteers, there is no limit to how much takeout pollution we can reduce. Again, you can find out about that at surfridersd.org, and let me see if I created a banner. I didn't. If you want to get involved and have questions, just email ofr@surfridersd.org. And that's on our website as well. All right, so let's dive in. I am going to bring in Bethany Case, the part-time sewage slaughterer and one of the fabulous volunteer Imperial Beach-based co-leads of our Clean Border Water Now program. And before we do, I'm going to play a little video.
I want
Together we gon' run like the wind to the sun. We gon' run, we gon' run, we gon' run. Strong like the buffalo we run. We gon' run, we gon' run, we gon' run.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. We are Clean Border Water Now. I'm one of 3 co-chairs. And we all live in Imperial Beach. This is our home. This is our problem. And we're here to solve it. Our mission is to address and eliminate the sewage, trash, sediment, and chemical waste that plagues our ocean, waves, and beaches in the border region. We do this by raising awareness through outreach and education while impacting policy through our advocacy work. So here are the main issues. The first one is the pollution in the Tijuana River Valley. Rain events frequently result in large amounts of trash and sewage that come across the border through the TRV and collector canyons. However, there are also unknown chemicals and dyes that randomly spill through these tributaries as well. Some of those are known sources and some are unknown. And then we have wastewater from Punta Bandera, the San Antonio de los Buenos sewage treatment plant, which is often referred to as Punta Bandera, sits only 5 miles south of the U.S.-Mexico border. When there's a south swell or there's a shift in ocean current, the pollution often travels north and pollutes the U.S. coastal beaches as far north as Coronado. Punta Bandera processes nearly 40% of Tijuana's sewage and has failed to comply with Mexico's coastal emission standards since 2015. This has caused over 20 million gallons of wastewater, both treated and untreated, to spew into the Pacific Ocean each day. I'm going to say that again, 20 million gallons of treated and untreated wastewater every day. Punta Bandera remains inoperable. However, according to Mexican officials, in March of 2021, there is going to be a bid and a project submission process with respect to upgrades at this facility. Fingers crossed. So in 2020, the Tijuana Sluice shoreline was closed 295 days. There were 5 total closures. The first one lasted 263 days straight. The IB shoreline was closed 160 days, which is 44% of the year. The longest stretch of that was 56 days from the beginning of March to the beginning of May. Silver Strand shoreline was 59 days. The longest stretch of that was 30 days from the beginning of April to the beginning of May. And then the Coronado shoreline was closed 17 days, and that was March 10th through 27th. Alrighty, so since mid-December, Clean Border Water Now has met with 18 elected officials from local, county, state, and federal levels to discuss these policy objectives you see in front of you. We still have more meetings to come. We have more meetings scheduled, and we will be scheduling more meetings beyond that. So objective 1 is to support federal funding of $75 million to the EPA's Border Infrastructure Grant Program, which is referred to as BWIP. Our asks are, first, more money needed beyond the USMCA $300 million, which I'll talk about in objective 2. And we're asking for the BWIP funding to support upgrades to Punta Bandera. So that's on the Mexican side of the border. Objective 2 is going to be asking for support of using the $300 million of current US-Mexico-Canada agreement funds to address the U.S. infrastructure solutions. And then what we want on this one is for all funds to go to the U.S. side and not on the other side of the border. We would like infrastructure and sewage cleanup with those funds. So objective 3 is to encourage public and private partnerships. Our ask on this is so we're working with Sony and a plastics manufacturer called Hunter and Plastics Manufacturing in Tijuana, and we want to include them in these solutions. And then what we're asking of our elected officials is, would they attend and or present at a speaker series that we're putting together? And then the last objective is we're calling for a massive cleanup in the Tijuana River Valley this year. It's long overdue. There hasn't been a real cleanup effort in a really long time. And we're asking the local, state, and federal government to help fund the cleanup and to work together to get there. So, how can you help? The San Diego County Board of Supervisors recently took a step in the right direction by declaring a public health crisis in the Tijuana River Valley due to pollution. Surfrider San Diego, we are proud to say, played an integral part in this movement by rallying the community to submit comments in support of this. We definitely need to go further. A state of emergency, also called an SOE, must be declared in order to fund a large-scale cleanup and to push the issue to the federal level. In order to declare an SOE, the county needs actual evidentiary support for imminent threat or extreme peril. To date, the county has not detected disease with exposure in the Tijuana River Valley. Clean Border Water Now is currently creating an action plan based on our fourth objective, which is the large-scale cleanup in the TRV. We're looking to start a 4-week water quality sampling of sites near the new county campground in the TRV. So we're just asking that you email us if you're interested in helping out with that. Shannon and Gabriella and I were down there today marking the sites and making sure we knew what everyone was getting into. And it's a great hike. It's beautiful out there despite the issues. So if you want to help with that, go ahead and email us at cbwn@surfridersd.org if you're interested in volunteering. And now, there's our email again for you. And then, we have those cute hats for sale if you want them. Email us with that too, and we'll get you one as soon as we can. And then if anyone has any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat. Thanks, guys.
Sorry, Allie, I should have told you that we were going to bring you on. I didn't see any questions. Thank you so much, Bethany. That was super informative. No questions?
Nope, no questions.
All right, we're going to keep it moving. Next up, we've got, sorry, I am being broadcaster here at the same time as MC. Next up, we got Elijah Garcia, one of our Blue Water Task Force leads, all around whiz kid, lab science mastermind. And he's going to talk to us about the Blue Water Task Force. But before he does, a message from our sponsors, which is ourselves.
Give me 1 second, y'all. Handling all this junk. Sweet. All right. How's everyone doing? My name is Elijah Garcia. I am one of the co-leads with Blue Water Task Force. I co-lead this program along with Allie and Jess. And on a national scale, the Blue Water Task Force is Surfrider Foundation's volunteer-run water quality testing, education, and advocacy program. Chapters generally use this program to alert the public and officials in their communities about water quality problems and work towards solutions. Blue Water Task Force has generally demonstrated, or we have demonstrated success by identifying problems with beaches and coastal water pollution, and raising the public awareness of these incidents while working collaboratively with local stakeholders to find and implement solutions. So the Blue Water Task Force, our program mission falls under the WEAP model, or stands for Water Quality Monitoring, Education, Activation, and Policy. Although much of our program surrounds water quality testing, ultimately we work towards effectively communicating the data that we collect and why having good water quality is important. And in the words of Jess, one of our co-leads, we are talking about poop, people. So the first step, the water quality monitoring, we are specifically looking for the number of bacteria in a water quality sample. We are looking at the fecal indicator bacteria, or more specifically Enterococcus. And there are studies that correlate the presence of fecal indicator bacteria with the presence of other more harmful diseases, such as norovirus or more pathogenic bacteria. We're using the IDEX Enterolit sampling kit, which actually has a 24-hour turnaround time, which is about half the time as a more traditional method, as well as while it still is an EPA-approved method. We test weekly. At full capacity, we test 16 areas. However, because of this pandemic, the 2 schools that we are partnering with, unfortunately, cannot be testing right now. So our 4 southern sites are currently, I guess, out of commission, for lack of a better term. However, we are working to get those up and running again. We have some site overlap with the County Department of Environmental Health. However, there's also some sites that they may not be able to get to because they have to cover 72 miles of coastline. So for example, we sample Campland by the Bay. You can find their water quality information at xdbeachinfo.com. So our second portion of that is education. We want to make sure that not only are we collecting this data, but we're actually being able to communicate that data and the importance of water quality to the surrounding community. We hold monthly volunteer meetings every 3rd Monday of the month, as well as host Blue Water Speaker Series, sort of like what this chapter is. Once a quarter, we like to have professionals at our meeting, and we'll talk on various issues concerning bacteria and water quality. We've also held outreach events like classroom presentations or partnering with beach cleanups. And we also advocate very strongly by sharing our data and transparency. So you can find all of our data, as well as all of the Blue Water Task Force national data, on our national database at the link above. And this whole actually platform has been upgraded to have more an emphasis on the mobile capacity so that it can reach a lot more users. You can sort of see a nice layout of all of our sites. The color code is for the level of bacteria, green being low, yellow being medium, and red being high. We measure the amount of Enterococcus by most probable number in of MPN per 100 mils. And about 100 mils would probably be like half this glass of water. So if you get like upwards of 200 MPN, which is about double the red bacteria number, you can imagine that like 200 harmful bacteria in this might be sort of problems, even if you accidentally swallow that water. So every Friday afternoon, we upload the results of our weekly sampling, and we call it our weekend beach report. It shows our samples and the readings, the thresholds that it met, as well as some topical information on the environment. And you can actually sign up for that as well with the link above or from our website. We've also put on we've also joined Swim Guide, which is an app that has a bunch of other sites all across the world and will give you the water quality data. It actually gives some more information on the sites that we test. We have little descriptions as well as photos for them as well. So our third sort of part of the WEAP model is our activation, or activating our community. We want to empower the people in the communities that we are serving so that they can seek policy solutions that are fit for them, or actively play or play an active role in sampling. So like I mentioned earlier, we actually collaborate with 2 high schools in Coronado, one in Coronado and one in Imperial Beach, for sampling. Our fourth and final sort of part of the WEEP model is supporting policy solutions. Ultimately, we advocate for more funding so that more testing can be done, as well as advocating for more awareness of issues such as the Tijuana River Valley, as well as making our data more transparent. Often data is really hard to find, and if anyone's tried to look at the California State Water Boards, know especially how hard it is to just find what you're looking for. So we definitely advocate for making available data more available, as well as easier to find, as well as supporting solutions that can have upstream impacts like green infrastructure or similar projects like that. So if you're wondering how you can get involved, you can become a volunteer with sampling or processing. The caveat for processing is that we won't be training that until the end of the pandemic, but once the pandemic ends, we'll also be holding bulk trainings, as well as partnering with beach cleanups once those come back. So if you want to come to our meetings, we have, like I said, every third Monday, and the next one will be March 15th at 7 p.m. You can find more information about it at the San Diego Surf Riders events page. If you want to sign up for the Weekend Beach Report, there's the link as well as there. And if you have any questions, you can always hit us up at Blue Water Task Force at surfrider.sd.org. So sweet. Thanks, y'all. Oh, I guess I'll keep that up.
All right. And sorry, thanks so much, Elijah. That was super informative. I did forget to introduce one of our other amazing Blue Water Task Force leads, Ali Senturk, who pretty much almost single-handedly relaunched the Blue Water Task Force in San Diego. She is our chat box moderator tonight. So were there any questions, Ali?
Yes, there were. We had quite a few. One I'm going to address specifically, I think mentioning Erica Rodriguez asked if we had any logos or decals available. I think she might be talking about the Clean Border Water Now hat. And if you would like a hat, Erica, please contact cbwn@surfridersd.org for a hat. Or if you're talking about like our general chapter merch, you can visit our website for other chapter specific merch, right, Mitch?
Yeah, and note to self, add those hats to our website shopping thing. So note to 53 people. I'll get that added.
Thanks.
Cool.
I think the next question was also referring to Clean Border Water Now. It looks like Jim Perry might just be emailing CBWN directly, but he asked about bacterial testing and viral testing. I don't know, Elijah, can you speak a little bit about that, kind of knowing just about how resource intensive those types of tests are as well? We don't specifically do that as a chapter, is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, bacterial testing is a little bit easier. I mean, the traditional method that I mentioned sort of briefly was sort of taking diluted water quality samples and putting them on an agar plate with selective media. With viral testing, you have to sort of look for their RNA or DNA, and that sort of gets more intensive. You need to use PCR machine and all those reagents. And although it's super sensitive and you can find exactly what you're looking for, you have to choose what you want to look for, and that can get very expensive. For our sort of the IDEX and TerraLert, it costs about $7 per sample, and that's relatively cheap for science. So even with that $7 is about, I don't really know the figure off my head, but I guess it'd probably be at least $20 to $50 per sample if you're running viral testing, as well as needing to buy the additional equipment for that.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so, Jim, if you have any hookups in the science space, definitely reach out to Clean Border Water Now, the viral testing and bacterial testing. Next question is from Amanda Matheson, and she asked, does Blue Water Task Force partner with Coastkeeper for sampling? Which is a great question because I now work for Coastkeeper. And we do not currently have a partnership when it comes to water quality testing. I know that we had one years ago, back before water quality monitoring was one of their larger programs. I think that grant ended in 2018. I do know that Coastkeeper is working to develop their science and job training and water quality monitoring program. So definitely be on the lookout for it. But at the moment, we do not currently partner on water quality testing. Great question. And then thanks also to Tiffany Boyd Hodgson for passing your info along, your contact info along. We'll get in touch with you. Elijah specifically would get in touch with you. I think she called you out. Let's see, some other questions in here. From Navy McKee, Elijah, our student-ran startup, a company building a new stormwater filter device, would love to have you attend one of our meetings. How can we set something up with you?
Email me, I guess. Yeah, email Blue Water Task Force at Surfrider SD, and then we can.
Oh yeah, bwtf@surfridersd.org. Awesome. Jim Perry says he's a med and tech. He's in med and tech and will look into a hookup for us. Gail Winterborn, she asks, how do you go about setting up stations at local surf shops or solo trash pickups? I guess this is about solo beach cleanups for Mitch.
Yeah, so if you want to be a site captain for a beach cleanup supply hub near you, just email me. I'll put my email in the comment box. It's mitch@surfridersd.org. Most of our emails are just our name at surfridersd.org, but I'd love to help you walk you through that and then get it going. Because yeah, we'd love some more, especially in North County or really in South County as well.
Awesome. I think that's all the questions we had for BWTF for now. So yeah, thank you, Elijah.
No problem.
Thanks, Elijah. All right, we are going to move on. Thank you guys so much. All right. So now we're going to move on to our final presentation of the night. And it's my pleasure to introduce Lucero Sanchez. She's the Community Policy Coordinator for San Diego Coastkeeper, and she'll be giving our featured presentation tonight on stormwater. But before we start, we are super stoked to show this little stormwater video that they made.
Flow, the surprising journey of trash from land to sea. Do you ever wonder how trash gets onto San Diego's beaches and into the ocean? The answer may surprise you. Much of the trash on our beaches starts inland. When trash is not disposed of properly, it can end up in a storm drain. The stormwater system is designed to move rainwater and floodwater away from the city, but it also carries any trash, debris, and pollution that end up in a storm drain straight into the ocean and onto our beaches. San Diegans know that protecting the ocean and coast starts with us. Thank you for keeping trash out of our storm drains and out of the ocean.
Hello, everyone. That video really covered a lot, but I am going to go over it a little bit more in depth here. My name is Lucero Sanchez. I am the Community Policy Coordinator with San Diego Coastkeeper, here to talk about stormwater and water issues in general in San Diego, and how we can make that an asset instead of a liability. So we are just going to go over who we are really quick. San Diego Coastkeeper is a grassroots nonprofit 501c3 that protects and restores fishable, swimmable, drinkable waters in San Diego County. And we do that through a multifaceted approach, through education, outreach, science, and advocacy. So we kind of do it all in that sense for water. We also do litigate when we need to. So that's a pretty neat feature of our organization, making sure that everybody's compliant and making sure that our water is clean. Though we are San Diego Coastkeeper, we do work inland as well while it's in San Diego County. we work through a watershed approach. So I'll just go over a little bit of a basic touch on that. A watershed really is just an area of land where any water that falls into that area of land is going to drain into the same body of water. So in San Diego County, we actually have 11 watersheds, one of which is binational. So that's a great example of the fact that these watersheds don't actually follow jurisdictions or even countries. So you'll see that that's an issue as we move on in the future. So definitely touching on that. And I do just want to highlight the water supply connection to climate change. In San Diego, we use about 80% of our supply is from Northern California or the Colorado River, both areas that are prone to drought, have issues, and also means we're using about 19% of our state's energy use on water transport and use. As climate change continues to progress, we can see that this isn't very climate resilient. We're going to have a lot of fluctuation where there's going to be very dry years, very wet years, and that's going to create a problem with water supply, which we're already seeing. In the past, this picture on the right is actually from November of 2014, one of our larger droughts. Many of you remember being asked to take shorter showers, not water your lawn. So those are the kind of things that we want to avoid. And we can really use those wet years to get some water for our dry years, which is a lot more climate resilient than just importing our water and using a lot of energy to do this. So that I just want to have in the back of your mind as we go forward into talking about other water issues and how that relates. So we're going to go into this next slide. We live in San Diego County and we are highly urbanized. We all know that. And with urbanization means less natural ground cover. It means that when it rains, water is not being absorbed into the ground and being turned into groundwater, but rather it is falling on buildings, falling on streets, on concrete, which is not absorbing the water in the same way, creating more runoff. That's what we see with stormwater runoff. So that means that there's going to be increased amount of pollutants that are washed into our ocean. There's going to be higher flow rates, which causes erosion, changes creek morphology, and just overall, like those are issues that create a lot of pollution. As you can see in this next slide, some pictures here that are not very pretty, but it's something that we see throughout San Diego County, a lot in San Diego Bay. This is from Choyas Creek, and this is after a big rain, in that top left picture here. You also just see, this is in Choyas Creek, that middle picture here, a lot of trash being collected. This was taken in November of 2020. That was before our first few rains for the end of the season. So you can imagine that all of this is now in the ocean. There's a lot of industrial pollution, irrigation runoff, invisible pollutants. A lot of pollutants that we don't see in here are also very harmful to humans, to the ocean, to its inhabitants, and it also creates some fishing impacts. So these are all issues that are currently happening in San Diego and that we're trying to find solutions to fix. And something that you would ask yourself here looking at these pictures is, are our stormwater systems filtering through this or fixing this, or how is this all getting down into our ocean? So I do just want to go over our stormwater system in the next slide, but I do want to point out this bottom picture on the right is also just from November when it started to rain. Every single beach in San Diego County was in the red tier, which means that you shouldn't be swimming in there. It's unsafe for you to swim. And we all kind of know that as residents of San Diego, that generally 72 hours after a big rain, you don't want to go surfing or swimming in the ocean. And that really creates a huge issue when we're talking about COVID times and talking about the fact that outdoors have been really one of the few places that people can go and unwind and enjoy the outdoors, enjoy life. So that's definitely an issue. And this doesn't just happen during our rainy season, it happens during our dry season as well because of stormwater infrastructure issues and aging infrastructure. So that's why I want to go over this next slide here to talk about what our stormwater system looks like. In San Diego County, we use what we call an MS4. No one really needs to know that name there, but what it means is that we have two different systems. We have a sanitary sewer system, which is this yellowish orange line here. That's going to take wastewater from your homes, from industrial areas, and take that to a wastewater treatment plant. One of the popular ones is Point Loma Wastewater Treatment Plant. And that's going to be treated before going into our reservoirs and into our ocean. Then we have stormwater drains. Stormwater drains are there to make sure that things don't flood and that we're safe, but the stormwater drains don't actually get filtered at all. So any trash that you see in the streets, anywhere else, is all just going into our stormwater drains and going into the ocean. That in and of itself is a huge problem because we do have a lot of pollution, as y'all have seen in those past slides and pictures. The larger problem is that we have aging infrastructure. In the picture in the middle here, you see some yellow and blue lines. It's a little tough to see, but this is in La Jolla area, in the Rose watershed. So you see the blue is our stormwater drains, our yellow is our sanitary sewer systems, and they really run along each other, which means that because of aging infrastructure, these two systems often mix, and the sanitary sewer wastewater is going into our stormwater drains without being filtered, without being cleaned, meaning that human fecal matter from our toilets and from other areas is going into our waters and causing huge public health risks. That's something that you start to see in the news as well. So these are all issues that affect everyone that's going into the ocean, fishing, going into those areas. You often see signs that say sewage contaminated water. We've talked about that in the past. So these are huge issues that definitely need to be fixed and are just a symptom of this aging infrastructure that is underfunded. So we're going to go ahead and go through more pictures of what aging infrastructure looks like. It looks like flooding. Our stormwater system is meant to avoid flooding, but if it's aging and it's not working properly, there are going to be a lot of flooding areas. And one that's most popular that we always hear about is Mission Valley. So you see that there. You also see water main breaks. You also see sinkholes. Those are all public health risks, potentially hazards that could cost someone their lives. So these are definitely issues that we really need to have San Diego address. It's all throughout San Diego County. Most of these pictures are going to be from the city of San Diego, and some credit to the city of San Diego for providing some of these pictures through reports. What we're going to show here is actually a part of their report from this past January. In the city of San Diego, this is what our infrastructure looks like. This is what our water quality looks like. There is a huge need for more funding for these kinds of issues to be resolved. So both of these are in a San Diego report from the stormwater department. I won't keep them up too long. There's just way too many points there, but it's definitely an issue. We definitely need to address it. But how do we do this? We do this by switching the narrative from turning stormwater, which brings all of these pollutions, into an asset instead of a liability. We do this by implementing multi-benefit solutions that address water quality, public health, flooding, and disproportionate impacts, because a lot of this is happening in communities of color, communities of low income, communities that aren't necessarily at the table. So we do this by increasing low carbon water supply, meaning capturing that water that we're talking about, that storm water, filtering it, and being able to add that to our water supply and to our water reserves. That would also create urban green spaces, green jobs, and like I said from that one of the first few slides, climate resilience and making sure that we're prepared for those droughts and for those more extreme weather. So what that looks like in implementation. These are also some pictures from the city of San Diego as their vision moving forward, if they can provide the funding, is having something that mimics our natural hydrological system. Instead of having concrete canals, we have these nice waterways that create flood management, that filter our water naturally, as well as in this picture on the right, again, small systems that really improve all of these issues that we've been talking about. So I will show you some pictures of what that looks like. Bottom left, we have Choyes Creek again. They have made some good strides in this being a concrete channel now. It looks a lot better. It increases that green space. We could have green streets, managed wetlands, making sure that we're restoring our wetlands, making buffers, and creating those green spaces that are so desperately needed. The picture on the top right here, you see those red spots are areas that don't have a lot of green spaces around. And generally, again, they're the same communities we talk about. So these projects could create multi-benefit solutions in that sense as well. And when I talk about stormwater capture, we talk about something like this. Small scale solutions where you see cisterns that capture your rainwater and you can use that for irrigation, and it also helps, that agricultural runoff and all of that, as well as larger scale projects. This project on the top right is, I believe, from Los Angeles, where they have implemented some measures to increase funding, and they're going to probably put a ball field over this and use the water that they capture for their irrigation system. So that's a very creative way of really having that water supply. The picture on the bottom right is actually from the San Diego airport. This is something that's very new, and we're very happy to see they're going to use it in their HVAC system, the water that they capture. So again, a great use. And all of these kinds of capture systems can be used also large scale and add to our local water supply, and be added into our pure water system, into our wastewater treatment plants, to really create that climate resilience. But why aren't we doing it? Really, it's talking about price. It's about cost and funding. The city currently charges a lot less than any major Western city, and it means it's caused a pretty big shortfall. 1.4 billion is the latest number we've seen. We have this priority gap. This is also from a presentation from the city of San Diego. Out of their entire gap in their budget, over half of that is stormwater alone. That's not including any other kind of water systems like pure water or just other systems. Streets and roads are a big one, but stormwater, they all pale in comparison to that. And this has really become because of lack of leadership in the past. Obviously, now we have a new mayor, new council members, and hopefully that means that we're going to be able to move some of these things forward. Going back to me mentioning that the city of San Diego charges far less. We charge about 95 cents a month for a stormwater fee. And just to throw out some other numbers, some of the other cities like Seattle charge $15, Philadelphia charges $14, Del Mar charges $13. And that's $13, not 13 cents. We're at 95 cents. So that's definitely something that needs to be addressed. It hasn't changed since 1996. So that is something that needs to change moving forward. In March of 2020, the San Diego Progressive Labor Alliance actually allowed us to add a question to one of their polls, and the results were really great. 64% in San Diego supported increasing the stormwater fee for clean water, green infrastructure, and water supply benefits, and 14% were undecided. That's incredibly high for anything. Water polls high because we all understand the need for clean water. It's just about moving that forward and allowing the voters of San Diego to be able to approve that and make that decision, since that's something that would be necessary for increasing a kind of fee. But really, this is the hindrance and the opportunity for us to move forward in creating these multi-benefit solutions. Apologies. And I'm going to actually show this timeline that I put together of where we're at in terms of asking for this and advocating for this. In January of 2021, the Stormwater Department presented to San Diego's Environment Committee and talked about most of the things that we've talked about. They've been doing a study for about 2 years now and seeing that they really do need a funding mechanism that allowed them to also present at the San Diego City Council in February of 2021, so not too long ago. And San Diego City Council passed a resolution to allow the Stormwater Department to move forward and continue to create polls on willingness to pay and move forward to figure out what kind of funding mechanism that might look like. So we're very hopeful there. In July of 2021, we are going to go back to City Council. Stormwater Department will report out on what they think is the most appropriate funding mechanism. We think it will probably be a ballot measure to increase the stormwater fee, but that's something that is going to be presented at that meeting. So we'll definitely need support there for people to show up, for people to create public comment, and we'll always keep people updated on that through our newsletter. In January of 2022, if July goes well, there will be some kind of final mechanism that's selected, and San Diego will vote on whether to move that forward and allow that to be a November ballot measure. So that's something that's also incredibly important that we really need people to provide public comment at. Really, this seems like a no-brainer, but it's definitely going to be an increase in our fees, something that as electeds you probably don't want to do if you want to be reelected. So we definitely want to make sure that we're working with our council members, connecting with them, and letting them know that the community really needs this and really wants this. If all of that goes well and we all do our jobs correctly, hopefully in November of 2022, we'll be able to have this on our ballot and we'll be able to vote for that. If it does go through in January and it's a city-run ballot measure, we will need 2/3 of the voting population. So that's a little high, but we're hopeful with how great water polls. So we definitely need help to get there and to allow community members to really chime in and say if they want clean water, which I definitely think they do. So that is my presentation. We have a lot more information in depth on our website, sandiegocoastkeeper.org. Here's a specific link to stormwater infrastructure funding, a lot of what we talked about today. I have my email as well, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thanks so much, Lucero. Bringing in Allie to see if there were some questions on the chat box.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lucero. So we have a question from Amanda Matheson, and she asks, how are stormwater fees levied? Is it a property tax, a sales tax, a trash fee? Do you have any kind of insight into that? And is that kind of what City Council is going to be figuring out at the next meeting?
Yeah, currently that 95-cent fee is monthly. I believe that's on our water bills, and it's property related. But that is what the city of San Diego is going to be looking into, figuring out what that looks like and what the best track moving forward will be. It's probably just going to be increasing that 95-cent fee. But that's something that the Stormwater Department will go through.
Yeah, that's really great. Thank you. And so if people have any ideas or any particular ways that they'd like to see this kind of tax levy, they can make a public comment at the next meeting in July, right?
Yes,
Awesome.
Yeah, that would be the time to do that, to work with the council members before that as well, or the Stormwater Department. And yeah, the biggest thing that you can do as a community member is to provide public comment and show up for these issues. Stormwater is something that historically has not felt as important to the council members because community support wasn't vocal or wasn't there. And that's changing, and that's what we really want the momentum moving forward to look like.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you. And thanks for your question, Amanda. I have another question. This could be to both Lucero and to Mitch. So Rory French asks, hi, currently new to Surfrider, but do you have any recommendations on how best to get involved in promoting green infrastructure and other solutions to these problems for your ordinary person like me?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Rory. And we look forward to helping you get involved. The best thing to do, as San Diego Coastkeeper, we really want to increase that community engagement and participation. So what we've been doing is for these kinds of bigger issues like stormwater infrastructure, we're going to be creating sort of one-pagers where you can find some information, as well as if there is a call to action for you to be able to do public comment or to reach out to your elected officials and let them know that this is important for you. We'll provide a guide that has all of the information you need, the links you need, as well as usually a script on what you can kind of pick and choose and do. It makes it a lot easier, and it's really a fulfilling process that's pretty easy to do if you're interested in that. So definitely check out our website, sandiegocoastkeeper.org, for those opportunities.
Definitely. Thank you. And Mitch, do you kind of want to talk about ocean-friendly gardens at all?
Yeah, sure. I mean, in terms of green infrastructure, since that's such a broad term, I think there's two. So Surfrider does have a national program that many chapters have called Ocean Friendly Gardens, which is really all about just using, it's a kind of a criteria step-by-step process to transform front lawns or even curb cuts or even larger larger parks and stuff into something that really captures stormwater rather than letting it just go straight to the coast untreated. So we haven't had volunteer leadership in that program for a few years now, so it's kind of inactive. But with the right volunteers, we'd love to get that program active again. And of course, I'll share my email, kind of on the outro if you want to just reach out to me personally and talk about that. And then the other thing is, green infrastructure outside of just water issues. We have one of our volunteer-led programs or committees is our climate change committee. And they're really active on kind of other ideas of green infrastructure, stuff like getting independent from natural gas, solar, and just all the other stuff that's going to really make our city sustainable and that's going to be good for our coast, although it might not be the stuff that's happening right on the beach. So yeah, I would encourage you to check out our climate change committee meeting. They meet, I think it's the second Wednesdays of every month. But definitely don't take my word for it. Just check out our event calendar on surfriderst.org.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that, Mitch. And another thing that you can think about as well, in addition to making public comment and checking out some of our other volunteer chapter meetings, you could also, if you have the means to do so or the property to do so, just kind of create your own ocean-friendly garden, rip up, your water-intensive green lawn and put in drought-tolerant native species that can capture some of that water and hold on to it and keep the water in the earth. Yeah, thank you. Thank you again for your question, Rory. I think there is another question here. I guess it's a question for either Lucero or Mitch, because I don't know the answer to this question. Do you know if San Diego County has looked into implementing microbial electrolysis carbon capture to our wastewater treatment centers?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure about that one either, Rory. But if you want to shoot me an email, I am happy to find out for you.
My answer is exactly the same as Lucero's.
Yeah, that's a tricky one. Awesome. And it does look like Udo confirmed that Climate Change Committee is the second Wednesday of every month. So if you're interested in that, definitely tune in.
Yeah, and it's a Zoom, and you don't have to RSVP. You just click the Zoom link, hop on. All you need is an internet connection.
Awesome. It doesn't look like we have any other questions.
I have a question.
If you,
I have a question.
oh,
for you.
go for it.
All right. And if I'm springing this on you, so if you don't know, that's fine. But if we captured, treated, and recycled all or even most of our stormwater, would we still need to import water from elsewhere?
That kind of depends. From actually today, we had a new presentation at Environment Committee where they talked about pure water potentially creating 50% of San Diego's water supply, plus water capture adding an additional 20% maybe. We'd probably still have to import a little bit of water, but that's incredible. That just completely flips the table on that 80-90% percentage. So definitely a lot less, and we would be a lot less reliant on that, as well as we talk about reducing water intensive things that we do, like Allie was talking about with native species, with making sure that we're using our water efficiently. So that'll also reduce things, and potentially there'll be very little to no imported water need out in the future.
Do you, I have a question about this. Do you know how much, like what the split is between like Colorado imported water and like Northern California imported water to San Diego?
Yes, that is on this slide right here. 28% State Water Project, 54% Colorado River. This is from 2008. That might have changed a little bit, but that's about the ratio that we do.
It blows my mind. I think one thing that constantly swirling in my mind is just that if you look at how we manage our water from a bird's eye view, it really starts to look like insanity. That we're importing most of our water at great taxpayer expense and huge energy use, aka emissions, treating it, then we use it for washing our hands or flushing the toilet and basically export it straight to the ocean. And then just continue that cycle over and over again. It's really insane. So
yeah, and that definitely also just highlights something that some people point out when we talk about increased fees. We're paying a lot already for our water because of this, because we're importing water and because we're not using water efficiently. So our systems are strained and we're paying a lot for that. The San Diego County Water Authority is trying to create projects that are redundant, environmentally destructive, to continue this system of bringing water in from the Colorado River at the cost of billions of dollars, when instead we could be talking about ratepayer assistance or creating the funding needed for stormwater infrastructure and for that stormwater capture, which is a lot better.
yes, stop the cycle of insanity.
That is also on our website, the regional conveyance system. So.
Yes, be on the lookout. We're partnering on an awesome video in the next couple of months with Surfrider.
Cool. Well, we are coming up on 1 hour. If there's any more questions, I don't think there is. I've got one more, if you can humor me, for Lucero. It sounds like this, because there are a lot of people out there who don't like the sound of a tax increase, right? That's kind of the hurdle we need to jump over. But correct me if I'm wrong, if we do increase the stormwater fee and vote on this and really fix this system, it seems to me like ultimately we may actually pay less for water after this initial kind of tax hike. Is that justified at all?
Yeah, obviously I can't make any promises, and I don't work for the city. And this is all very dependent on how much that fee increase is and how much funding we can get around this, as well as the Stormwater Department will also be working on grants and other opportunities as well. But really, this doesn't happen without that fee increase. And yeah, hopefully it means that in the long term, this will pay for itself. And obviously, like as expensive as it is right now, ignoring it is only going to continue the problem, continue the amount of money that the city and at that point, the taxpayers are paying in litigation fees, in emergency fees, in the fact that other projects are not getting the funding because things are being diverted from the general fund to pay for emergency fixes that are really just Band-Aids. So at the end of the day, this is going to cost the city a lot less if it's dealt with now.
I think
Yeah,
that,
and there's, oh, go ahead.
no, you first.
And I mean, you talked about multi-benefit solutions, and jobs being one of them. You know, the green jobs economy is going to provide these long-term jobs as opposed to these short-term kind of fixes, right?
Yeah, and really when we talk about this, we're hoping that we are able to work with labor a lot on this as well to make sure that they are part of the conversation and make sure that we're protecting those union jobs, creating more green jobs, and just overall making sure that everybody's protected.
All right. Well,
Awesome.
we are just over an hour. Lucero, Allie, Elijah, Bethany, who left because she had to eat dinner and hang out with her kids. Thank you all so much. Thank you for everyone who took an hour out of their night to learn a little bit, and hopefully you did learn something and want to get engaged. If you do have any additional questions or anything like that, I think we've shared everyone's email quite a bit, but I'm going to share mine one more time if I can find it. Whether it's clean water related, surf rider related, something else related, feel free to email me. If I don't know the answer, or if it's for someone else within our network, I'm happy to forward that on and make those introductions. So yeah, I hope that was an hour well spent for you. It certainly was for me. And I encourage you to check out both of our websites, surfridersd.org and Coastkeepers as well. I think what is it, sdcoastkeeper.org?
Yep.
Sorry, I didn't have that in my notes. Yeah, as Ali said, we do this because we love where we live, and we are not going to stop doing this work until the day comes when 100% of our coast is protected and that people can go and enjoy their local beach or waterway 365 days a year. So thank you so much, everyone, for coming and attending our chapter meeting. Hope to see you all in person soon. Be safe.
Thank you.